Cumberland Gap, 15 miles on the Cumberland Gap. Well, it's Cumberland Gap, Cumberland Gap, 15 miles on the Cumberland Gap. Now the Cumberland Gap, she ain't nowhere 15 miles from Middlesbrough. Cumberland Gap, she ain't nowhere 15 miles from Middlesbrough. Cumberland Gap, Cumberland Gap, 15 miles on the Cumberland Gap. Well, it's Cumberland Gap, Cumberland Gap, 15 miles on the Cumberland Gap. Danny then. I got a woman with long black hair, I'd follow her most anywhere. Cumberland Gap, Cumberland Gap, 15 miles on the Cumberland Gap. Well, it's Cumberland Gap, Cumberland Gap, 15 miles on the Cumberland Gap. Danny again. Yeah. It don't cost $1, only a dime. I wanna go there most any old time. Cumberland Gap, Cumberland Gap, 15 miles on the Cumberland Gap. Well, it's Cumberland Gap, Cumberland Gap, 15 miles on the Cumberland Gap. And at Cumberland Gap, well, she ain't nowhere 15 miles from Middlesbrough. Cumberland Gap, she ain't nowhere just 15 miles from Middlesbrough. Well, it's Cumberland Gap, Cumberland Gap, 15 miles on the Cumberland Gap. Well, it's Cumberland Gap, Cumberland Gap, 15 miles on the Cumberland Gap. Well, it's Cumberland Gap, 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 Cumberland Gap.